Did you know that even if you arrive at the airport with everything in order, you might still not be allowed to board your flight? This isn't just some rare story you hear once in a while. It's a real situation that, in 2025, is affecting millions of travelers. People with tickets in hand, documents ready, bags packed, only to be stopped at the very last moment. Why? Because of a series of new rules quietly put in place that are turning the flying experience into something much more digital, automated, and sadly, a lot less human. In this first episode, we're going to talk about the first 3 major changes that are already impacting passengers around the world. First change, the digital biometric passport. In airports like Dubai, London, and even Mexico City, you no longer need to show a physical passport. You don't even have to pull out your phone. Why? Because the new digital biometric passport now does it all for you. This document lives right inside your smartphone and connects directly with the airlines and airport systems. It holds your personal information, your ticket, and even your immigration details. But here's the big catch. Without it, you're not flying. It doesn't matter if you have your printed passport or your paper boarding pass. If you can't activate that digital passport from your phone, you'll literally be stuck on the ground. Boarding your flight now depends on whether your device is charged, working properly, connected to the internet, and whether the app is running. Can you imagine showing up with a dead or broken phone? What many call progress is also becoming a form of exclusion. What about older adults? Those who don't know how to use apps? Or those who can't afford the latest smartphones? The message is loud and clear. If you're not digital, you're not flying. Second change, your face is your ticket. Now, let's talk about one of the most controversial changes, mandatory facial recognition. In the past, you showed your boarding pass and your passport. Today, your face is all you need. A camera captures your image, checks it against the airport's database, and if everything matches, you move along. No scanning barcodes, no showing documents, not even touching your phone. But what happens to that image of yours? Authorities say it's deleted after 15 seconds. Do you believe that? This technology is connected to global databases, immigration systems, and private companies. So the big question is, who has access to your face? And what happens if that data leaks? Or even worse, if someone manages to impersonate you and board a flight using your face? There's also the risk of mistakes. Imagine the camera failing or not recognizing you correctly. Who's there to help you then? In many airports, there's no one. If the system rejects you, your trip ends right there. We're handing over our identity to machines that, while impressive, aren't perfect. Third change, no phone, no flight. Just a few years ago, a cell phone was a handy travel tool. Today, it's your only boarding pass. And no, this isn't exaggeration. If your phone's battery dies, if you can't get online, or if your digital passport app crashes, you simply won't be able to board your flight. And the scariest part? Some airports no longer offer in-person help if this happens. If your phone fails, all they say is, sorry, without the app, you can't travel. And what about folks who aren't tech-savvy? Or travelers taking a solo trip for the first time? Many seniors over 60 years old, for instance, are being left behind. Not because they're careless, but because they don't understand or don't have access to the required digital tools. In the past, arriving early with your papers was enough. Now, you have to be a tech expert just to make it onto the plane. Fourth change, passengers without seats even with a paid ticket. Picture this. You bought your ticket, you got to the airport on time, your phone worked, you passed security. Everything's going great. But when you finally reach the gate, they tell you that you don't have a seat assigned. This isn't some mistake. It's actually a new policy that many airlines are quietly putting into place, not assigning seats by default. If you didn't pay to choose a seat when you bought your ticket, you could be left out. Yes, even if you have a confirmed reservation. In the past, if you didn't pay extra, they would still give you a random seat. Now, that courtesy is disappearing, not only with low-cost airlines, but even with some traditional ones. The result? Passengers get placed on a standby list, waiting and hoping a seat becomes available, even though they already paid for their flight. And there's more. If you're traveling with a partner or family and you didn't pay to sit together, you'll be separated automatically. It doesn't matter if you're traveling with kids, elderly relatives, or someone who needs assistance. No payment, no choice. The worst part? There's hardly any warning. Most times, this rule isn't clearly mentioned when you buy your ticket. You might think everything is fine because you received a confirmation email, but if you didn't open the app and reserve a seat and pay for it, you could be left behind at boarding time. Fifth change, mandatory check-in 72 hours in advance. Remember when you could check in the day before your flight, or even at the airport itself? Well, that's no longer enough. In 2025, some countries have introduced a new rule. International check-in must now be completed up to 72 hours before your flight. Not 48, not 24, 3 whole days in advance. If you miss this window, your reservation becomes invalid. It doesn't matter if you already paid, packed your bags, and showed up on time. If you didn't check in within that exact time frame, you lose your flight. Just like that. And the scariest part? There's no big warning. This rule is usually hidden in small print during purchase, tucked away in a forgotten email, or buried deep in the terms and conditions. Most travelers find out only when it's too late. This new rule is now active for flights to places like Mexico, the United States, the United Arab Emirates, and several European countries. And who gets hit the hardest? Older travelers, first-time flyers, or anyone who doesn't constantly check their airline's app for updates. There was a time when all you needed was your passport and your suitcase. Today, if you don't master these new digital rules, you're out of luck. Sixth change, the carry-on nightmare. Maybe this is the most obvious and most frustrating change of all. Your beloved carry-on bag isn't as welcome as it used to be. For decades, having a small bag you could bring on board was considered a basic passenger right. Now, it's become a trap to charge you more. The size limits are strict down to the millimeter. 55 centimeters tall, 35 wide, 25 deep. Weight, somewhere between 7 and 10 kilos, depending on the airline. And here's the catch. There's no more leniency. If your bag is even 1 centimeter too big, or just a few hundred grams overweight, you could be charged anywhere from $50 to $100 right there at the gate. No discussions, no appeals. And the worst part? Your bag might pass through security just fine, but when you get to the gate, an employee might make you fit it into a metal frame to check its size. If it doesn't fit perfectly, even if it's just because of the wheels or a slightly bulky zipper, you'll have to pay. And it doesn't end there. Many airlines are now limiting you to just one small item that must fit under the seat, like a backpack or a handbag. That means if you show up with a rolling suitcase and a purse, you're either paying extra or leaving something behind. This hits hard for travelers who carry medications, laptops, cameras, or important documents. And of course, for older adults who already have a hard time reorganizing their luggage on the spot, it's an even bigger challenge. Seventh change, hidden fees everywhere. Now we reach one of the most outrageous parts of traveling today, hidden fees. In 2025, many airlines have become experts at sneaking in charges for what used to be basic services. Here are some examples. If you need to print your boarding pass at the airport because your app didn't work, they'll charge you $20 at airports like those in the United States or Mexico. Want to speak to a real person at the counter? That could cost you $15 just for face-to-face help. Need to reschedule your flight because of an illness or emergency, even if it's more than 48 hours in advance. Some airlines charge up to $150 in penalties. Change your travel date, but miss their tiny hidden deadline? You lose your entire ticket with no refund and no credit. And the worst thing is, these fees aren't clearly listed when you book your ticket. They're buried in fine print, hidden in extra clauses, or they pop up only at the final checkout step, when it's too late to back out. The result? Seniors, less tech-savvy travelers, and anyone just trying to have a smooth journey end up paying much more than they ever expected. Little by little, flying is becoming a maze of tricks and traps where only the most informed, most digitally prepared passengers can make it through without losing money, time, or even their flight. Eighth change, invisible blacklist, the flagged passenger list. Imagine this. You did everything right. Your digital passport is activated, Your check-in was on time, your app is working, your luggage is in perfect order. But as you reach the security checkpoint, a red light flashes, and an agent tells you that you can't proceed. Why? Nobody really knows. They just say, the system doesn't authorize you. This strange situation is becoming more common. Passengers getting flagged as suspicious by artificial intelligence systems that scan your personal data, your flight history, even your activity on social media. And the worst part? They don't tell you why you were flagged. You have no way to fix it. Sometimes it's a simple name error, a glitch in the data, or maybe you bought your ticket using a different credit card than usual. But by then, the damage is done. You miss your flight and end up under unwanted scrutiny. Experts call this the invisible blacklist. It's a system where no human actually makes the decision. Algorithms do. And if the system gets it wrong, you pay the price. Literally. Ninth change. Flight blocked by digital security alerts. Now, here's something even more unsettling. Did you know that in 2025, your online behavior can actually decide if you're allowed to fly? Yes, your browsing history, your interactions on digital platforms, even your comments or posts on social media can now influence whether you're flagged as a person of interest. If the system detects anything it considers risky, you might face extra screenings, long questioning sessions, or even outright denial to board. And no, you don't have to break the law. Sometimes it's enough to have your data associated with a pattern the system sees as suspicious. And there's no way to defend yourself because you don't even know you're being judged. This has already happened to travelers who criticized airlines, discussed political topics, or even shared certain memes. Sounds crazy, right? But remember, artificial intelligence doesn't understand context like humans do. It just sees patterns, probabilities, and makes mistakes. 10th change. Travelers stranded abroad due to system failures. There have been real cases of people trying to board their return flights, only for the system to not recognize them. Their digital passport wouldn't sync, their facial scan would fail, or their app would crash. And just like that, they were stranded in a foreign country with no one to turn to. Server outages, connection problems, app updates, name confusions. It can happen for many reasons. But for older travelers and solo travelers, being stranded abroad is a nightmare. 11th change. Your face is your passport, even at immigration. At many airports today, a machine scans your face instead of a human checking your passport. And if there's any issue, you're stopped immediately with no one to explain or help. 12th change. No human option in case of emergency. Today, if you have a real problem, you have to deal with apps, bots, or emails. There's no longer a way to quickly find a human who can help you. So tell me, what kind of freedom is if a simple glitch, a small system error, or a hidden algorithm can decide whether you can board a plane? Everything we talked about today is happening now in the world's most modern airports, and it's spreading. They call it progress. But for many travelers, it feels more like a loss. If you or someone you know has experienced something like this, share your story in the comments. Your experience might help others avoid the same traps. And if this video opened your eyes, subscribe right now. Here, we tell you the truth. No filters, no sugarcoating. Because in today's world, good information is the safest ticket you have.